or that he is a loser who cannot cast magic, but it turned out that he is a wizard with limitless magic. Sable was a homeless loser who did not remember anything about his past, but his life changed when one day a mysterious woman approached him. She looked into his shiny, mysterious eyes that proved that he had magic and said that she would take him to where he belonged. She took him to the Royal Academy of Magic, where students study magic to become wizards and witches. Past 3 years since he entered here, and now he is the stupidest student in the history of the academy who cannot properly cast a single spell. He receives a call from the director, and when he comes to her office he sees a short blonde witch there. The witch begins to get angry because she is not allowed into the office. Noticing Seb, she turns her staff into an axe and points it at his neck. She tells him to scream because then the director will definitely come and save him. Suddenly, the director of a beastman named appears Holden and confronts the witch. Holden, disarm, returns to its original form. SP decides to lift it for her, and the witch and the Wolf get scared seeing it. Holden pushes him away and throws the staff at the witch, who cries seeing her faithful partner being treated like this. Suddenly, the door behind them opens and Director Albus comes out to find out what all the fuss is about. She is shocked to see this pathetic witch who she knows as Love. Krista asks how the hell she ended up here. Albus lets everyone in and tells herself that he is being sent to a distant place for special training because she believes that he will not be able to improve at the academy. Albus begins to talk about the long and bloody war between witches and the church that ended only 5 years ago. After the war, the North, including the kingdom in which they live, accepted magic, and witches in the South, they are still treated with hostility, and witch hunts regularly take place there. The reason why the North accepted magic is a shorter and more intense war that happened 10 years ago. A very powerful man named the Evil Wizard 13 spread the teachings of magic in Kurawini and led a war to create a world in which witches and wizards are not persecuted. Albus did not agree with his methods, and in the end, she killed him. However, she believes that the current acceptance of magic in the North is the merit of the Wizard 13, who made magic more common. On the other hand, in the South, witches have a hard time, so she decided to build a village there for witches. She wants to SBN. Other students have proven to everyone that they are not dangerous and can live like ordinary people. If after 3 years, they do not impress the local authorities, then everyone will be about magic and the academy. Lua admits that Albus has a good plan, and she voluntarily agrees to become a witch who will rule the village. Albus tries to convince her that they have another teacher, but Lou replies that she will not cooperate with the academy if she is not allowed to visit the village. Albus is already in despair, and then Lou says that he will only work if she will be allowed to read Grimoire Zero, the world's first book about magic. Albus replies that it is a forbidden book that can destroy the world, and Lou cannot read it. But they come to a compromise. Albus allows Lou to meet with the Black Witch, the author of Grimoire Zero, and Lou happily agrees to the deal. The next day, the joint venture meets Lou at the market, and they are going to go south with Miss Hort, a cheerful red-haired girl with a very bright personality, and a beastman, a lizard named Kudo, who claims that he doesn't need a guide. He tells Lou that she will go south on her own along with 2 other students. Seb and Lou sit in a restaurant, and Lou feeds her familiar with juicy meat skewers. She calls him familiars because he sucks the magical power of anyone who touches him, and kills who can only keep him because she made a pact with him. After that, they set off, and Sheba begins to rock in the carriage, so Lou decides to continue the journey on foot. At night, they talk about Seb's past, and he says that he didn't remember anything before entering the academy. That's why he wants to pass the test in a special village if his memories of the academy will become just an empty shell. At that moment, Lou comes there with his water and his staff. By they talk, the girls find out that Sayo barely knows how to use magic. When he tries to cast a spell, the magic goes out of control, but when he tries to control it, the magic doesn't manifest itself. To Beam reads that SBU should really give up trying to become a wizard because it will take him too long to learn anything worthwhile. The next day, they get to the village and rent a room in a hotel while they eat breakfast. 2 wizards who report come downstairs and complain that the lizard ran away from them and took away the map. As soon as they see Seb's group, they report that last night they were attacked by bandits. Their things were not stolen. Makuta took the card set that he was the only wizard in the group and ran away. Lou considers his story suspicious because any normal bandit would have stolen their things and kidnapped the boys to sell them into slavery. However, since the target was the Kudo, she believes that this is the work of a witch hunter. She thinks that the Kudo also realized this, so he escaped alone so that his friends could save herself. Liu takes responsibility for letting Kudo go alone and decides to save him herself. She forbids herself and the other two to go with her because they will only disturb her. However, once they are alone in the room, they realize that they cannot sit idly by while their classmate is in trouble. Suddenly Hortus uses divination magic using Liu's handkerchief and pinpoints her location on the map. They go into the forest, but Hortus is still angry at the two useless wizards who refuse to go with them and help Kudo, saying that it's not their fault if some pathetic lizard died. Suddenly they notice the torn-off tail of Kudo around which there is blood on the ground. They are in a panic and Horde asks if this means that Kudo is dead, but he believes that the lizard will grow a new tail. Horde, just in case, picks it up and then he notices 3 pairs of footprints on the ground. 2 of them belong to Kudo and Liu, which means the third attacker is horrified when he realizes that there is a witch, a hunter who is strong enough to corner Kudo and force him to flee. She trembles remembering what she heard about professional witch hunters that the church recruited from among prisoners sentenced to death. She cannot cope with fear when she says the name of the organization of cruel witch hunters. Diagmas Aspi says that Diagmas was disbanded after the war, but Horde shouts that even if the organization no longer exists, it does not mean that the hunters have retired. She nervously says that she once met a member of Diagmas in the past. She went to a neighboring village to meet her friend but found only a pile of burning bodies and a fierce man with a huge hammer standing in front of them. She was so scared of the witch hunter that she ran away in tears. Although her friend was burning at the stake, now she also wants to run away, but suddenly they hear a scream in the distance and realize that it is a Kudo. Banter thinks that they should run away but then decides to go and help a friend. He tells Hort that this is her chance to gain courage and not make a mistake like last time, and she decides to go with him on the other side. Kudo was hiding behind the trees while the hunters tried to find him and set traps everywhere. He noticed a rope tied to the branch on which he was sitting. The branch suddenly broke and he fell to the ground, and hidden traps shot arrows at him. Somehow he dodged them, but got hurt on the thorns on the ground. Now he is trying to get out of jungle despite his wounds, but falls into a simple trap. He is afraid that arrows will rain down on him again, but instead he comes face to face with a terrible witch hunter called Tyrant, from whom he ran away. Last night the Kudo's magical attacks did not work, so this time he tries to blind him with a light spell and runs away. However, the Chiron easily copes with the magic and catches up with him. He hits the Kudo with his huge hammer and imprints, but the wound on Kudo's leg is already healing, and laughs, saying that they will give him a good price if he sells it to church researchers. He orders his people to bring the cage, and this brings back memories of the past when he was a small lizard. He was kept in slavery by vile circus performers who put on a show using his ability to regenerate. He escaped from this terrible place and came to the academy to become stronger. But it seems all is in vain. He desperately clings to the root of the tree and Chiron mercilessly breaks his arms. Kuna screams in pain, but does not give up and grabs the root with his teeth. Chiron is about to finish him off, but suddenly the tree next to him breaks into pieces. The hunter looks back and sees Les sitting on a branch. She orders her staff to attack the man and he turns into a black jaw. Chiron fights off with a hammer and then begins to sweat, asking if this is the legendary staff of Ludden. Lu confirms and says that she is a 300-year-old witch of the dawn, and now the teacher of the lizard whom he tried to kill. Chiron, in confusion, attacks the tree on which she is standing, but this does not help. Lu attacks him with his staff and demonstrates his strength in an instant. A log house and several trees. Chiron realizes that he is doomed when the voices of Shiba and Kor are heard in the distance. Lu tells them to run, but it is too late, and Chiron overtakes them, now pushes Kord aside, and falls. Chiron strangles Sid. Kord recognizes him as the same terrible person who killed her friend and freezes in horror. Lao approaches the hunter and says that if he kills her student, she will immediately kill him. He offers her a deal and asks her to throw the staff and surrender to him in exchange for the lives of her students. She cannot watch how the joint venture suffers, so she throws her staff on the ground. Chiron laughs and casts an anti-magic spell on the staff. and then asks Sub to wrap the staff in it and bring it to him. SB does as he is told. Then Tyrone calls. Koran asks if she wants to return to Tai Liu. She shudders in fear, and the hunter says that she is a spy from the church faction that opposes witches. Hort screams for her to shut up, and this takes her back to the past when she was little. Horn suddenly grew on her head. Her mother, a devout believer, sent her to the church where her horns were cut off, and she was sent to an orphanage. One day she was assigned to enter the magic academy and report to the church about everything that she learns about witches. Kor was happy to serve, but when she began to study at the academy and made friends, she was overcome by a feeling of guilt. She no longer wanted to be a spy and wanted to become a real witch. So when she had the opportunity to undergo special training, she jumped at it. But she could not even imagine that a member of the Diagnosis Corps would appear here, falls to her knees, feeling guilty. But she forces out a smile and says that it is not her fault. Seeing his efforts, she decides not to deceive her friends anymore. She immediately takes out the tail of the kudo and uses it as a spell to release a bright blue flame. She attacks the tyrant with it, and he snatches the robe from Seb's hands to defend himself. Ro blocks the attack, and Horde watches in horror as the tyrant approaches her. He's about to hit her when suddenly she hears the voice of Ludden, who asks the boy to use his power. She is fascinated by the staff and takes it despite Lu's objection. The core of the staff glows, absorbing his magic, and then suddenly a black liquid spills out in all directions. Everyone is worried about Sub when the black liquid distorts space and forms a giant ball around them. After a few hours, as he opens his eyes and sees that Horde is lying on him, he jumps up and staggers back and calls all three of his students reckless. After that, they continue on their way, and SP asks why he is still alive. Lu says that his magic was much stronger than it could have been. Absorb the power of Ludden. Everyone else is in shock, and Lu believes that Shib has almost endless magic, which is why it is so difficult for him to use it as an ordinary wizard. Then Lu tells Kudo that this time he will go with them, and when he tries to refuse, she climbs on him until he gives up. He says that he should at least find Nan So on his tail. But Horde replies that she used it as an offering, and he loses his temper at night. Sade and Horde drink coffee on the street, and Louis, where they are relaxing, and in the hotel she takes off her hat and touches Sed's horns, telling him the story of her childhood. As a child, everyone said that the horns prove that Hor is a child of the demon, but only now she learned from her that the blood of beastmen flows in her veins. Beastmen appear when a witch gives a warrior the power of the beast, but if both the warrior and the witches died, the power is inherited, as happened to her. Horde thanks Sib for his trust and kisses him on the cheek before going to bed. As soon as she leaves, Lu appears next to the bomb the next day. Two other wizards are arrested by the police for giving information to the church in exchange for money. Lu states that now only Fur will participate in the journey. Firstly, she wants Kudo to heal his damaged hands with healing magic, but he says that healing magic requires a lot of magical power and he doesn't have enough of it. Lu replies that he is Sape, which is the source of magical power with an unlimited supply. She says that the most effective way to transfer magic is a kiss. But Horde immediately rejects the very idea of an unholy kiss between bombing magic from Kudo, who casts a healing spell, and after a few seconds his broken arms and tail are completely restored. The villagers are amazed by this spectacle. Lilia throws a party, everyone sings and dances soon after. After this they get to the big city, where a passing carriage splashes up with mud. Liu tells him not to worry because her inn has an excellent public bath. Bai and Kudo wash themselves in the bathhouse for boys. Kudo tells his story. 6 years ago, he was a participant in a freak show of Powerful, which attacked the northern lands and destroyed almost everything. Kundo somehow managed to survive and was saved by the church. At that time the beast people were still treated with prejudice, but the knight on the dragon saved him with a smile on his face. Since then Kuno dreamed of joining the church and the army of magicians like him. The next day, they calmly continue their journey. Wherever they go, people know Lushi knows the best places for fishing and recreation. She teaches her students to survive in the wild, then encourages them to use magic to help others. Everyone opens up to her and she says that she lives thanks to the power that the Ludden staff gives her for more than 300 years. She doesn't even need to eat or sleep, and she can't. So life is boring for her. The only thing that makes her happy is fun, and she gets very worried when something dangerous happens in the world. One day a boy runs up to them and says that they can't go outside. He grabs Lu by the hand and leads everyone into a hollow tree where, with the help of a spell, he creates an invisible barrier that hides them perfectly, but does not muffle the sounds. Suddenly the Beastman tiger appears and calls the bull. He threatens to break the bones of his friend if he does not come out. The man hears the hearts of people hidden in the hollow tree beating and swings a sword at them magic because he will kill them before they can cast the spell. Suddenly, he notices someone behind him and turns around to see Lu attacking him. The Beastman parries her attack and she jumps back onto a tree branch. I order her students to run. They obey her, and when Lu asks the mercenary if he is going to chase them, he replies that turning his back on her is suicide. He seems very knowledgeable about the program Luton's staff and about the witch village. What irritates Lu, the mercenary retreats realizing that he cannot defeat her and tells her not to go slowly to the village because her students may be in danger. At this time SP Horde and Kudo safely bring the boy to the village church where they are met by a priest named Dien who is blindfolded. The boy tells Dien that these three saved him and asks if they are wizards. SP is confused and asks how he knows this, and the priest replies that everyone in the village knows that they are here. Then SP asks him about the Beastmen tigers that attacked them, and the Day says that they are Beastmen and advises the students to run away from here because it is dangerous. He explains that 2 years ago, the witch who lived here suddenly surrendered to the invaders without even entering into battle with the invader. The witch took control of this territory from those since then. No one can resist her. The joint venture suddenly realizes that 2 of the students of the special group were arrested for denunciation of the church. Horde was a spy for the Kudo Beastmen. He believes that they were sent here to get rid of from them, and his friends are horrified to hear this. Cuter says that they need to contact the church and the army of magicians. Tatin informs him that in this region they still call themselves the church army, and this will not help the village where there are witches and wizards. While everyone doubts, suddenly Lu appears. She asks her students to doubt this suspicious priest because he may be in league with the mercenary tiger. Dien suggests that she kill him if she suspects him so much, but Lu says that she does not like violence for no reason. She asks him to lead them around the village to prove that he is not an enemy. The priest agrees and leads them to the village where they must stop there. The boy's father is waiting for them, a boy named Forrest, and his father shows them the village and says that the former, which was their friend Komida, asks why she left the village without trying to fight the invaders, but the man knows nothing about it. The rest of the villagers hide from them in their houses, and he explains that they do not like strangers. He then leads them to a house where 4 human-sized dolls are hanging. Father Leo explains that a couple of years ago, several people tried to escape from the village, so the witch and her mercenary dealt with them and hung these dolls as a warning to those who will try to leave. However, he insists that the witch does not harm the villagers if they do not violate its rules. After that, they enter a dilapidated house, and Lu, after examining it, declares that they must kill the witch who controls this area. Horde suggests returning to the academy and asking for help from the church and the army of magicians, but the joint venture is against this idea because it will turn the village into a battlefield. He wants to deal with this problem himself, but Kudo grabs him by the collar and says that they have no chance of defeating the witch who commands the ferocious mercenary tiger. He claims that this battle will end with their death, but Sape removes his hands and says that when he touched the staff of Luton SA he realized that he is not afraid of death. Horde quietly says that the very thought of it scares her, and Sape asks her to leave the village with Kudo so that she and Liu can fight themselves. With tears in her eyes, Horde says that she meant that the thought of Seb's death scares her. He cannot understand her because he has low emotional intelligence, and Horde Sape runs away in tears, tries to catch up with her to apologize, but Lu stops him, because if he apologizes without knowing what he did wrong, the girl will be even more hurt. Kubato tells him that Horde is upset because she considers him a friend and doesn't want her friend to die in vain. Now Sape understands a little and runs to look for her to apologize. Meanwhile, Horde in the church meets Little and Robicon. She tries to leave but notices a symbol of Diagnos on the priest's cane. She understands that he is the enemy and starts to back away, but suddenly finds himself tied with strong ropes and takes out a weapon from his cane and points it at Horde. Order her to continue spying for the anti-witch faction if she wants to stay alive. Sebastian returns home empty-handed. He could not find any information about Horde, so Lu decides to track her down with magic. The search leads them to a cave in the forest where they see blood on the floor, and Lu feels the magical trace of several people inside the cave. Kuno retreat because it is a trap, but Lu believes that if the witch of this region wants to accept him, then she will invite them herself. She uses her staff to sense and disarm all the traps in the cave, but Kudo is still not ready to fight. Lu tries to anger him by reminding him that he is going to join the army of the church and magicians who are not afraid to fight with opponents who are stronger than them. In fact, their leader once defeated and tamed a dragon that destroyed his entire kingdom. She asks Kudo, does he want to be like him or get out of the fight, and he chooses the second option. He runs away from the cave but meets Yoha, who invites him to join him because it will help him become stronger. In response, Kudo asks Yoha about the blood in the cave and demands to know what he did to hurt. Yoha just laughs and says that he ate the girl and she was very tasty. This makes Kudo furious. He turns red and blue with anger and tells the tiger that he will definitely kill him. And in the cave, SB uses the magic of light to illuminate the space but cannot control his power, and Lu almost blinds him with the light. Finally, he manages to take control of the spell, but Lu grumbles at him for a long time. She says that any witch would want a student like him with infinite power, and this suddenly causes some forgotten memories. He falls to his knees when he remembers, but immediately gets up. Lu tells him that he can return because it is dangerous for him to go further, but he is ready to face danger to save his friends. Suddenly, tentacles reach out from the door in the depths of the cave and grab him. Lu tries to help him, but her staff is taken away. Den immediately appears and pushes Lu into his room. When the door closes, Den tells Lu that she should have killed him as soon as suspected. SB gets up and sees another witch in front of him. She emits a calming blue light, and SP recognizes her as the witch who saved him from loneliness. The witch calls him, saying that she has been waiting for him for a very long time. She impatiently asks who she is, but Lu is suspicious of the new witch. The witch doesn't like her either, and with one wave of her hand she throws her aside. She rushes to help, and the witch tells him that she is disappointed that there are so many people around him, worthless fools. She throws away the bloody quartz hat and in despair asks what she did. The witch says that she allowed her mercenary tiger to eat herself in order to weaken him further. She claims that she did everything possible to get him back from Albus, and for this she had to capture this village. Sam thinks that it is his fault, and the memories of his forgotten past are returning to him again. The witch asks him to come to her so that she can take him instead, corresponding to his level, but he refuses. He says that he was happy with his friends who treated him well even when everyone considered him a failure. He tells the witch that he will decide who is worthy to be with him, and believes that she is not suitable for this. He is going to use all his magic in one spell to destroy himself. That as soon as he begins to cast spells, Lu suddenly kisses him. Unable to understand what is happening, he gives in to her kiss, and after a long and passionate kiss, Lu feels that she is filled with magical energy. She casts the same spell that she used against the tyrant, and I shoot a blue-fired dragon towards the witch, but she instantly neutralizes her magic. The witch proudly tells Lu that she created this spell and that it is stupid to use it against her. She declares that she is a real witch. Zero, who wrote the Grimoire of Zero and SB, realizes that they have no chance against her. When Zero approaches him, he tries to protect Lu, but to his surprise he is not attacked. Instead, confetti flies around the cave. Zero pokes himself in the nose, saying that from today she will watch over his training. He is still the same stupid, and now even Lu has begun to praise Zero's step. She looks dumbfounded and she tells him that it was a test and he passed it. Suddenly Horde runs up to them, and Sebastian is relieved to see that she is alright. She calls him and says that their arrival in the village was a carefully planned test and all the villagers took part in it. The blindfolded priest also checked her and asked her to remain a spy, but she spat in his face, and the perverts liked it. Then Dawn appears and slaps her for saying nasty things about him. He returns Lu's sight and asks if she knew that it was a test. Lu replies that it was obvious that everything was a setup because the house they stayed in was too clean and well furnished. The villagers throw a party for wizards and witches to pass the test. After the party, Zero congratulates the three students again, and Horde asks why she tried so hard to fail them. She replies that since there is great potential, she needed to check if they have a character corresponding to their abilities. She claims that if they reveal their potential and then take the path of evil, it will lead to disaster. Zero says Horde that she has a talent that, in a few decades, will make her equal to Director Albus. As for Kudo, Zero believes that if he develops his healing magic, he can even become immortal. She claims that the peak of Sheba's power is not visible even to her. Zero says that thanks to his limitless magic, the power of Sho can live for centuries, and if he develops his magic, then nothing will be impossible for him. However, she adds that if they do not train, they will remain third-rate magicians. Zero explains that they need to open their own unique shops in village so that the residents can easily turn to them for help. She wants to tell him more, but then the tiger and the priest interrupt her lecture by bringing food. After that, the three students go home, and suddenly Kudo sees man riding a dragon in the night sky, and his head glows with a white light when he recognizes the knight who saved his life. He tells his friends about the knight, and they immediately run to meet him. The knight riding a dragon lands in the village, and it turns out that he is here to deliver letters to the three students. When he and his friends open the letter, they find out that now they can freely use their magic. Everyone is shocked, even the knight on the dragon, who understands that this is permission to enter into battle with the Anti-Koldov's faction. After that, they return home, and Lu throws a tantrum because they also want to see the dragon up close, and this is possible. Her only chance is because she is going to go on a trip. The students are upset when they hear this, but Lu says that he will not go anywhere until he reads all the books that Zero wrote, and this will most likely take a lot of time. Everyone is happy about this. Kira and they rush to hug her later. When Lu and Zero are left alone, Lu asks her about how her magic is weakening and worries that she might try to get Sib under her wing to steal his magic. Zero tells her a story about a witch who killed Sheeb's mother in front of his eyes and tried to steal his power. She died instantly from an overdose of magic, and this incident left a deep emotional scar on Sheeb's soul. As a result, he sealed his memories and since then endlessly suffered. So when Zero found him, she decided to send him to the academy to give him a second chance in life. However, she called him here to keep an eye on him if his power gets out of control. Lu asks Zero by what right does she try to control Sheba's life, and she replies that he is her nephew. This is shocking Lu because Zero's only brother was the infamous wizard number 13 who stole her fiancé and caused a devastating war. Zero admits that the same outstanding wizard is the father. Sheba has been 2 months since this incident happened, and 3 students are now working in their shops. Court works as a freelancer doing various orders for the villagers. Kudo uses his healing magic and works as an assistant in a clinic. Meanwhile, SP runs a magic shop and supplies everyone who needs magic. His biggest clients are his 2 friends who are close to orgasm when they receive his magical power. SP stays at home while his friends go to work, and while he thinks about how to get used to this life, Lu and Lugantseva enter the house and she attacks him for withdrawing into himself. He says that he needs to stay at home in case someone needs magic, and on top of that, he also cooks, cleans and does the laundry. He claims that he feels empty if he doesn't do household chores and really feels sorry for the beau. She climbs into a chair to hug him, and her hugs strangely calm her down. She thinks that he needs someone who would teach him to be human. Then, she decides to send him away from home for a change and asks him to bring her some tea leaves. On the way, he runs into Leo and tells him that he is going to find some tea leaves. The boy claims that he knows where the tea leaves grow and takes Sib into the forest. He is not sure should he go deeper into the forest without protection, but Leo runs away himself. SP eventually finds him hiding Gossio on the top of a tree and asks him to come down. Laos apologizes because he was just lying to him to look cool. Now he forgot on his way home. SP begins to console him, and then the mouse begins to gnaw his pants. Laos immediately recognizes the mouse as one of Lily's pets and says that they must follow her to get out into the forest, so they run after the mice and soon arrive at the church. Leos finds his mother who is waiting for him at home, and she angrily drags him home. Meanwhile, the day appears behind Sheba emitting a murderess aura. He invites him to the church, and there the girl Lily meets him and asks her to take off her hood, but she refuses because she doesn't want to scare the guest. The priest listens to her and forcibly tears off the hood of the Lily. Embarrassed because her true appearance of the mouse people was revealed to her Sebo, but Dian tells her to stop fussing and prepare food for the guest. Lily has low self-esteem because she is from the mouse people, but it seems SP doesn't even understand what the problem is. Lily brings him some food, and Dian scolds Sib for going into the forest without knowing about the dangers. He tells him that he will find him near Zero's house, but also advises him to go out to the village more often and live like a normal person. After that, SE leaves and meets Horde. She is surprised to see him on the street and helps him wash up after a delicious lunch. STV notices the blood on her sleeve, but Horde says that it is Yohei's blood and not hers. She went into the forest with a mercenary to hunt wolves. Panicked when she was surrounded. She took to lawn to cast spells and ended up wounding Yohei instead of the wolves. Horde cries, thinking that she is a bad witch, and when Lily takes her away, Lou appears next to him and says that they need his magic. She brings him to his senses when he tries to stop the bleeding mercenaries. Soon as Zero sees his nephew Shiba, she kisses him Alabama style and takes away enough magic from him so that he can cast a high-level healing spell on Yohei. He immediately gets better, and the first thing he does is be jealous of the boy. Then SB asks Zero if he will be expelled from the Horde because of this incident. Neither Zero nor Yohei think that she did something that does not allow her to undergo training, and then we will give she has one more chance. This reminds her of Bualios, and he leaves to meet him and give him another chance to play in the forest. Meanwhile, Zero finds out that Lou sends him on trivial errands so that he would not get in the way. She complains that she doesn't like that he sits at home, but Zero and Yohei don't mind. They want the boy to do whatever he wants, but Lou throws a tantrum that he's doing something wrong. Seb's Giovinazzi henchman, she can't take more from him than he needs. Lou says that she will grow old and die, but Zero doesn't regret it because she's already lived enough. On the other hand, Kudo also messed up at work. He went to a neighboring village to cure several patients and got carried away. He tried to cure them all at once, but lost consciousness halfway, and the doctor carried him home. Waking up in his bedroom, he doesn't understand what happened and goes downstairs, where his friends tell him the truth. He embarrassed by what happened, but then finds out that Horde has done even more, and they start arguing. Lou comes just in time to stop their quarrel and says that they need to work hard to correct their mistakes. She also says that tomorrow the three of them should go to Zero. The next day, they come to her house, where they see her magnificent collection of books. She explains that these are just the books that she keeps in her place, and the most important ones are in the Forbidden's library in the north. Horde really wants to visit the library. Aware says that it is impossible after the war with the evil witch. Many demonic monsters appear in the north and it is still unsafe there. Zero confirms this, and even SB refuses Horde's plans to visit the library. Horde tries to convince them that with Shiba's boundless magic, her attacking spells and healing abilities, where they will be invincible. Until she learns to cancel her spells, she will not return home. She drags the girl with her, and the SP finds an interesting book on the street. Zero forces Hortus to attack her and waits for her to cancel the spell at the last moment. Hortus's spell almost overtook her, but she managed to cancel it in time, and Zero said that for now this is enough. She ordered Hortus using the same high-level spell to light candles. At her house, Hortus complained that he did not have enough magic, and Zero used as much magic as him, but the result was much better. Zero scolded him for not trying new ways of using magic, and then she fainted from exhaustion. The students immediately ran up to her, and JV tried to transfer magic to her by holding hands. It didn't work, and he offered to kiss her like yesterday, but Zero said that it wasn't necessary. She stood up, still staggering from weakness, and said that good food would quickly put her back on her feet. She fell again, but he picked her up, and this reminded Zero of her brother, the Wizard 13. He took her to the room and tried magic with her again, but nothing came of it. SB was confused, but Zero said that if he wanted, he would drain all the magic from him, but then he noticed that her eyes were an exact copy of his eyes. Pointed to the book that he took from the library. SP said that he took it to help him collect medicinal herbs, and Zero said that it would be difficult for him to decipher it because of the terrible handwriting. He simply replies that his handwriting is very similar and he can decipher it. Zero says that the book was written by Seb's father. She claims that he was an unsurpassed genius, and the book may contain secrets that only SP can unravel. At that moment, Yohei comes, running with Fu, and thanks for his company. He apologizes that he cannot give her magic. Zero decides to tell him something important. She says that he and his friends are here to become a magician, but if he does not want to be a wizard and prefers to remain a supplier of magic, then he has no place here. Soon after this, the joint venture and Leo enters the forest, and although he is confused at first, he quickly comes to his senses and with the help of a book, collects the necessary herbs. They notice the carcass of a deer and then a clearing with red flowers that they need to collect, while Leo rejoices at Nakodko. The joint venture feels someone's ominous presence. He looks around and sees a pulsating lump of muscle with spikes sticking out of it. He tells Leo to duck down, but it's too late and the lump releases the spikes with great force. Steph receives only a few cuts, but turns around and sees that Leo is in a panic. Seeing that the boy is seriously wounded, he wants to heal him, but since he had never been able to use healing spells before, he decides immediately take him to the village. SP limps carrying Loud, who faints from pain. When Leo loses consciousness, SP curses himself for not knowing how to heal. He asks someone to help him, and suddenly he hears Luce's voice. Raises his head and sees that Lu is communicating with him with the help of a bird created with the help of magic. She tells him that he needs to go further because Zero is heading into the forest, and if he hurry up, he can save the boy. SP gets up and walks towards the village, praying to make it in time. Suddenly Zero and her mercenary SP arrive there in time and apologize for not being able to cure the boy, but Yohei says that he already did everything he could at that moment. Lu appears and Zero asks her to share blood with the boy to save his life. Lu cuts her wrist and a red fountain gushes out of it, and then Zero uses her healing power to save Lao. Soon they get to the hospital. Lu fainted from loss of blood, and Zero from using too much with magic. Kubanov treated their wounds and told Sub to stop crying, but he can't hold back his tears. He tells everyone about the strange monster he fought with, and Lu says that this is one of the demonic monsters created by demons to torment people. The strange monster pretends to be prey and then attacks its victim, releasing spikes that after a while turn into new monsters. Zero believes that the demonic monster should only be in the north, and if it appeared so far in the south, it means it was brought here on purpose. She sends Yo on reconnaissance, but as soon as he opens the door, he sees Hold'em, who came with a sudden check to Beastman go to the church and discuss the details with Den. Hold'em says that he has heard rumors that someone is catching monsters and selling them, and the presence of one of them in the forest confirms is. Den decides to take Lily with him to investigate the monster, and Yo and is also going to go to neighboring villages to warn them since both strong warriors are leaving the village. Hold'em thinks that the safety of the village will be at risk, so Yo asks him to stay and protect the village for them, and he reluctantly agrees. Suddenly Zero bursts into the room and tells Yo that she will go with him. He tries to convince her to refuse, citing the fact that she has little magic, but in the end she is his boss. Soon Hold'em gets to the hospital and tells the students everything that led to the fact that he became responsible for the safety of the village. After telling them everything, he asks them to return home and is left alone with Lulu. Suspects that Hold'em appeared just at the moment when the monster was discovered, but he tells her that this is just a coincidence because if he wanted to destroy the village, he would have already done it. Then he asks her if she herself can do something with the monster because she knows that his owner always rely only on her help. Lu remembers the siren, the owner of Hold'em, who was her close friend. The siren died protecting people, and Lu is sure that she would ask her to save the village she dreamed of. She decides to accept the task, but asks Holden what will happen to her for this. He replies that he will ask Albus to give her access to Grimoire. Zero and Lu happily agrees. Meanwhile, SP tells his friends that to date, he learned that he must study hard to become a wizard, and therefore he needs them to teach him spells in exchange for replenishing his supply of magic. QB and Horde do not mind, and Horde even asks for his supply of magic kiss, but SP, as always, does not understand what she wants and rejects her request. At that moment, Holden comes and says that he will take him to the hotel where he can rest. He tries to act casually and says that he will not go to the hotel with a girl because the population of the village may increase and 3 students are going to complain to the director about Saiba's behavior. Suddenly Leo's father comes there and takes Saiba away to talk alone. He knows that SP is not to blame for the fact that Leo got hurt and even saved his life. But despite this, the father does not want him to. He communicated more with his son. When SP is left alone, someone attacks him from behind. This is the same witch hunter Tyrone with whom they fought in the forest. He strangles Shiba and knocks out his face. Shiba is tied up in a bag and is thrown into a carriage. At Rush's full speed, he hears a woman's voice who asks he is hiding his power. Suddenly memories return to him. Sayo sees his mother hiding him in a safe place and warns him never to approach the witch with the same eyes as his because she will take everything from him, and she locks him securely. But suddenly, a house is shaken by an explosion. The power-hungry which enters the house through a hole in the wall, and tells himself to come out if he doesn't want his mother to die. He comes out of the secret room, but the witch mercilessly kills his mother in front of his eyes. He be devastated, but it's too late, and she dies in terrible agony, burning. Alive, SP screams when he sees these memories, but then the tyrant takes off his mask and hits him to keep him quiet. He grins, saying that this time he is ordered to take Sib alive so that he cannot harm him. Suddenly, they hear that someone is approaching and see that it is Hort and Kudo, who are riding on a cart. Although they cannot control the horses, they jump off the cart before it capsizes and stops right in front of the kidnapped Sebo. They are horrified to see the tyrant here, but Kudo realizes that they need to fight him to save Shiba. He cuts off the tyrant's tail and gives it to the stunned crowd, who uses it as an offering and releases a powerful blue flame at the tyrant. She does this without a spell, and he does not have enough time to repel her attack. Not only that, the control of the court has improved and she burns the ropes with which she is tied without harming him. The tyrant prepares for battle, but then she suddenly grabs his hand and tells him not to move, otherwise he will die. Lu. Meanwhile, in the forest with a demonic monster, she uses her staff and it immediately spreads in all directions. She collects all the parts of the monster before swallowing them. Lu is quite down with the work, but then she meets a man who is all swollen from the stings of wild bees. She takes him to the village, where she finds Holden unconscious. She booths him and asks what he is doing here. He suddenly remembers that a man came to him and said that Shiba was kidnapped by a crowd and where they wanted immediately help him, but when he tried to stop them he suddenly fell asleep as if a spell had been cast on him. Holden panics that the students might be in danger, but Lu tells him that he shouldn't overreact so much. She knows that he was the one who kidnapped Shib because the school principal must have wanted to cause a commotion in the village and see if the students could handle the situation or not. Holden agrees with her, but then says that the problem is that he hired Tyrone, a cruel witch hunter in the forest. Tyrone just beats Sib head and knocks him to the ground, laughing at his confident words. He breaks his arms with his hammer and then knocks out his friends too, saying that they are still too young to threaten to kill someone. Then he looks at Sib and thinks that since he can be cured with magic, then everything will be fine with his employer. A blindfold that hides his incredibly sensitive eyes. Den has the eyes of a wizard, and he cuts off both of Tyrone's legs, saying that it's not scary because he can be cured with magic. Tyrone gives up, and soon Zero and Yohei come there because they feel that Dan will turn the attacker into mincemeat. Soon Holden and Lu Holden arrive there, surprised that Tyrone alone dealt with 3 students, and Zero's asks what is his relationship with the criminal. Holden pees in his pants and hides behind Lu, and Zero says that his life depends on the answer. Everyone goes to the dungeon under the church, and Holden says that Tyrone was tasked with bringing 1 student from the village alive if he wants to get rid of his criminal record. Lu realizes at this time the village's ability to protect the students will be assessed. Everyone blames Holden for his incompetence, but Zero believes that this test revealed the weak defense of the village. Yoli and Dien think that this situation only arose because they had to face a monster and their village not enough strength to fight. Yoli believes that they can easily protect their village, but when they try to help other villages it becomes a problem. Zero knows that they cannot abandon other villages, otherwise the reputation of their witch village will fall. Holden gives her an idea and tells Zero that she can use Tyrone if she needs additional strength to fight. Tyrone says that this was not part of the deal, but Holden replies that he has already failed the deal and if he wants to leave he must do as she says. Zero agrees with this proposal, but the next day when she tells the students about this, Hort objects with all his might. She believes that Tyrone can betray them at any moment and he needs to be executed. Zero tells her that it is okay if she wants revenge, that she will just continue the cycle of hatred between witches and ordinary people. She explains that Tyrone committed many sins, but he is given a chance to atone for them by protecting the village. Liu says that the tyrant killed many innocent people. Adian replies that when he worked in the church he also killed everyone who was ordered to him, and it doesn't matter who they were. Liu adds that her subordinates also killed many witches and this means that she also needs to be executed. The court objects at this is not so, and under pressure from all sides she decides to cancel her request for the execution of the tyrant. Instead, she wants him to live under the constant supervision of Yoha and decides to keep an eye on him when they work outside. The next day Holdem leaves the village and invites Lu to go with him to the Forbidden Library in the north. She refuses, saying that now she is more interested in how her students grow than Grimoire Zero. She returns home and finds out that Espy told Hort that the memories came back to him. He explains that these are terrible memories and he doesn't feel like he remembered them naturally. Espy says that even with the memories, he still doesn't feel like a full-fledged person because he doesn't understand human emotions. He says that Lu told him that Hort is in love with him, and the girl blushes from embarrassment. Espy, however, he doesn't understand what it means to love someone and desperately wants to know it. Hort says that the person you love is special and says that she is too special for him. She replies that this does not mean that he loves her and decides to give him a few more clues while Espy thinks about it. He remembers the moments spent with Slu and says that maybe he really likes her more. Hort feels broken but still asks Sebut to trust her if he needs advice. Then she asks him to fill her with magic, but when he is about to do this, a memory pops up in his memory of how the witch died from an overdose of magic. He shudders and says Cordum can give her magic and then runs away to Zero. He is worried when he enters her house, but quickly calms down when he sits down to drink tea. Sub tells her that his memories returned for no reason, but Zero believes that it was because his life was in danger. She is glad that he was not so shaken by the difficult memories and says that it is because he is no longer an empty shell. She calms Sub by saying that he must confront these difficult memories and defeat them if he wants to become strong enough to protect everyone. Then Sub tells her that his mother told him to stay away from the witch with eyes like his. Zero smiles and her eyes glow as she reveals the secret of their identical eyes. She says that her brother, the Wizard 13, was her only relative and they both inherited these eyes from his father. That their genes could give life to a magician with limitless magic. He was going to give this power to Liu, but Seb's mother found out about this and ran away with her son. Zero says that he suffered because of her, but Sebastian claims that she is not to blame for anything. He believes that she was the reason for his birth. And Zero laughs and says that Sebastian inherited the best qualities from the 13th. Sebastian says that he wants to know more about his father and Zero replies that he was very rational and that is why he started a war for a world where witches rule. Hearing this, Sebastian tells Nala that this morning he didn't want to give Hort magic because he was afraid that she might die. He says that he wants to continue to be her supplier of magic and that's why he came to ask for help from Zero, because even if he gives her a little extra magic she won't die. She smiles and stretches out her hands to Sebastian, saying that they will train so that he can control magic better. He takes her hand and they begin to circulate magic. When she hears someone scream, Zero doesn't let Sebastian go, saying that he should learn to control magic before helping someone. Meanwhile, Lu goes to the pond and decides to forget that she heard Sebastian say that he likes her. But then Hort appears and says that Sebastian is in love with her. She gets scared and falls into the pond and then says that she needs to tell about someone's feelings. Kurt asks if she is going to leave them now because the witches run away if their students fall in love with them. Lu confirms this, but when Kurt hugs her and asks her not to leave, she promises that she won't go anywhere until the special training is over. Suddenly, they hear Kudo-do scream from the hospital. They quickly get to the hospital and see that a fight has started there. Kudo is wounded and Tyrone is holding the guy whom Lu saved in the forest last night. Horde tells him to let the guy go and he obeys. But the guy immediately grabs a piece of glass and rushes to Lu, who simply knocks him out. Some later the guy is tied up and Kudo says that he was probably sent by the church to create riots here. Suddenly a woman comes in there and asks Kudo not to talk as if the whole church is evil. Lu recognizes the red-haired girl as a teacher from the village who came here to bring lunch for the patients. She gives Tyrone his lunch and even gives one to the unconscious guy, a compassionate P. This is the guy who was sent here by heartless extremists, but Lu believes that he was just bait to see how Eivor will react to the hostility. All Kudo, Lu and Horde discuss what to do with the guy. Compassionate approaches Tyrone and tries to teach him good table manners. He doesn't care because the only thing he needs is to kill his targets. Compassionate tells him to stop acting like a gangster here because no one in the village is afraid of him. He tries to test it on her, but Lu quickly points a gun at him, and he retreats even though Compassionate says it's not serious. She can go with Tyros and show him the village and Sue. After they leave, Yohei comes there. He decides to cancel his plans to the attacker's attempts, seeing that it is just a boy, and Kudo attacks him, saying that there is no point in torturing criminals even if they are adults. Yohei sees no point in arguing and says that he will leave the boy with Den, who will beat information out of him using his own methods. Horde says that the priest can really use verbal torture, but then something flies in her direction and she blocks it at the last moment. He was dissatisfied that she was talking about him behind his back again. Then he notices that the boy woke up a long time ago and her everything. The boy opens his eyes and rushes at him. Den simply grabs him by the neck and presses him to the bed. He turns him over and sits on top of him, saying that he must admit his position. Then he asks Lu to make the room darker and she uses the power of her staff to make it as dark as night. Dan takes off the blindfold from his eye and looks directly at the bow, saying that now he will ask a few questions and if he lies, he will understand it. He asks the bow if he is alone and if anyone will come to save him. Den can tell by subtle movements of the facial muscles and the bow is lying and when he is telling the truth. Then he tells Liu and Yoki that they did not receive much information from the bow. However, Liu believes that if a monster was sent along with the bow, then someone very influential in the church is involved in this. Since the main villain must use stronger pawns than the bow he just sent, it means that something is happening in the village and they must find out in order to protect the inhabitants. The port listens to their conversation and is dissatisfied with the fact that the adults decide everything themselves. She wanders aimlessly around the village and decides to go to the school, where she sees a shocking picture of Terran teaching the children to weave baskets. She asks the harmful one what is happening and she answers that Taro is making traps for catching fish. She says that he is just a big child who is trying to scare her, and every opportunity. When Hort sees Terran playing with the children, memories of how he killed her friend pop up in her memory and she feels confused and offended. She doesn't want to leave a killer like him alone with the students, so she decides to keep an eye on him. But the students are not afraid of him, and heartily says that he teaches them they are not afraid of anything, without a good reason. On the other hand, Kudo receives a message from the mouse Lily that the bow's transfer to the north has been postponed. He laughs at this and decides to take him somewhere on the way. The bow complains that this was his chance to die as a hero and go down in history because he believes that witches and beastmen are evil monsters that need to be exterminated. Kudo is angry with him, but still takes him to the church, where they eat the food Lily prepare. Debo is surprised, but when Kudo takes off Lily's hood and reveals that she is a mouse girl, he gets scared. Lily apologizes for deceiving him, and he feels embarrassed because he spoke rudely to her. Then Kudo takes him away to the room so he can rest, and the boy realizes that the church lied to him about the beastmen. Later that night, he shows what teach now he can use the spell of light and even change its form. At the same time, his friends are impressed and also try to change the form of light. Then SB asks Lu to lend him the Staff of Ludens because she wants to do an experiment. She happily borrows it, but SB admits that he likes her and he wants to marry her, which finds the 300th anniversary, and Flu asks him to forget about it, but she just attacks him with accusations. The next morning, a boy named Katie has a dream about how the church brainwashed him and turned him into a weapon against witches. He wakes up from this terrible dream when Horde comes to invite him fishing with the village children. When they go to the river, Dee asks Horde how can she trust such a person as a tyrant, and she replies that trust must be earned, and she does not trust the tyrant yet. Nevertheless, she is ready to give Katie has a chance and asks him not to harm anyone if they don't have the opportunity to defend himself. Suddenly his stomach growls loudly, but unlike the others, Katie seems to be hiding something on the other side. SB will be Luke, who is very alarmed when he sees him in the room, but he only wants to do the experiment that he told her about yesterday. He prepared a magic potion using the knowledge from the book written by the 13th. Looney can read a single letter in the book and she is shocked to find out that she can read it, but when he tells her that the book was written by his father, she understands everything. She is shocked that SB knows that his father is the 13th, and he doesn't care that his father was the biggest villain of the century. SB says that the main thing is that he found a way to add magic to the potion from the book and that the potion that he created restores the magic of the wizard. He drops a drop on the core of the staff and it immediately begins to glow. With magic, the staff takes the test tube from Sed's hands and drinks all the potion and then begins to dance, showing that he is happy. Lou touches the staff and realizes that he has accumulated the same amount of magic as the two witches, and SB is surprised because he was holding back his strength when he was preparing potions. He decides to leave to prepare more potions, but before leaving he tries to kiss Lou. She is embarrassed by his attempts and tells him to get out while she goes to see Katie. Meanwhile, Katie with Horton and the others watches the children play in the river. Jerome remembers his childhood when his father abused him and how he learned to make traps to survive being a hunter. One vile noble hired him to make traps to hunt escaped slaves, but then Den and his men killed the nobleman and forced Jerome to join Agnes. He returns to reality when Harv comes there and they discuss why she came to the witch village even though her hometown was destroyed by the northern witch. She goes to play with her students in the river, and while Hort asks the witch hunter if she has fallen in love with the teacher, they notice that Katie is walking towards the river. As a zombie, Tyrone senses danger and tells everyone to stay away from Katie, whose stomach suddenly begins to swell and a huge one appears from it. Tyrone immediately stands between the monster and Harv and pushes away the CDDI. He tries to hit the monster, but Katie releases sharp blades from his back and cuts off his hands. Tyrone grabs Harv and jumps out of the river before the monster attacks them again. Hort uses sleep magic to stop the monster, but it doesn't work and the monster begins to have new jaws. Tyrone realizes that Katie brought here not a single monster, but an entire army. He tells everyone to run so he can kill the monster, but Horde says that he is not able to fight. However, Harv says that she will take the children to a safe place and let the rest fight. Katie comes out of the water and tells him to immobilize the monster. While she casts a spell, Tyrone holds Katie by the claws and tries to stay away from the monster. But despite this, the monster continues to attack him. Katie finishes reading the spell and tells Tyrone to move away, and he sacrifices his leg in order to escape from the monster. In time, Katie's spell turns the monster to stone the statue, but this is not enough and the monster breaks through it. They understand that this time they must kill him for sure, and Tyrone rushes at the monster, order Katie to hit him with all her strength. She hesitates, but Kudo cuts off the monster's tail and gives it to her, and she begins to read spells to attack with blue flames. At this time, the monster pierces Tyrone's chest, and he thinks that this is the end. But when the quartz attack hits the monster and burns him, he uses his most powerful healing spell to completely cure Tyrone's wounds. Unfortunately, their problems have not yet been solved. From the burnt corpse of a large monster, hundreds of small monsters similar to Venus appear, and Tyrone realizes that they are doomed. He doesn't even have the strength to run due to loss of blood, and Hort and Kudo come to his aid. Suddenly he notices something and immediately pins them to the ground. He tells them to be silent because help is already close. Loss arrives at the place and tells Ludens that it's time to have a snack, and the employees turn into a giant mouth that swallows all the little monsters. Soon Sape, Hort, and Kuno are having a funeral for Ki. Suddenly, they see a dragon flying over the village and immediately run to the village to meet the knight on the dragon. He informs them that they are being summoned to the academy immediately because the village could become a battlefield at any moment. They immediately go to Zero for an explanation. Kuba and Horde say that they need any help if the village becomes a war zone, but Zero says, but if they will not return to the academy, it will be expelled. SB says that in that case he would like to quit his studies to help in the war. He knows that they as witches and wizards cannot attack first even if they are attacked, so the only way to fight is with traps. SB says that he will set traps that will capture people without killing them and will quickly end the war. Zero asks how he will do this, and he shows her the magic potion that he prepared. She is surprised and says that if he can end the war earlier because of the potion, she will allow him to finish his studies and not expel him. At this moment, Lou bursts into the room and declares that this is a great opportunity to conduct the final exam for the students. Zero says that this is the business of the academy and not her, but Lou complains that if they send the students back she will also leave. However, she wants to stay and protect the village. That's why throws a tantrum and begs Zero to let everyone stay here and fight. Zero agrees to discuss this with Album, and Lou immediately begins to laugh. Anticipating a funny war, Zero sends Albus a message with new details, and she is impressed by the idea of winning the war without losses. Moreover, she wants to use this war to humiliate the opponents of the witches in front of the whole world. She sends a message to Hold Anu to bring troops and informs the allies that the village needs their help. Meanwhile, in the village court tries a magic potion. Sheba and just one drop significantly replenishes her magical reserve. She asks how he made it, and SP tells her kudos that he found a recipe in a book written by his father. They are shocked to learn that Sheba's father was also a wizard, but when he tells them that he was an evil wizard 13, they are even more surprised. Meanwhile, Heartfilia calls the tyrant to class because the students want to thank him for yesterday's protection. He is speechless, and Heartfilia puts a cookie in his mouth because what he seems thought after they had fun with the children. The two adults are left alone. Heartfilia tries to get closer to the witch hunter because he knows what he likes, but he decides to leave, thinking that he is not made for love. He goes to a hotel where he meets Court, who eats his food. She makes fun of his relationship with Heartfilia before moving on to the main topic. She explains that Sam plans to quickly set traps and start a war, and Tyrone's ability will be the most important in his plan. Court claims that she personally does not support that he is so important to their plan, but seeing how he risks his life to save others, she is ready to give him a better chance. She leaves him with it, but her words hurt Tyrone deeply, and he is torn between guilt for his past actions and fear for the future. The next day, Tyrone leaves the villagers to set traps and strengthen their defenses, while Zero and the three students come up with a better way to avoid this. Stop their enemies. Lou and her Heidi just watch them from afar, and he says that if their enemies are strong, then the traps will become more reliable, useless, and they will have to fight to kill. Just at that moment, Dan arrives there and says that the enemy forces number about 10 people, but they are all poor farmers and peasant women. The anti-witch faction wants to force the witches to kill them, so they will look like villains. Suddenly, Lily ran there to call her and help her with cooking. Dan told her that when the villagers evacuate to safe place tonight, she should go with them, but she refused. She said that she would stay here and protect Dan. That she touched Luan. She started hugging the girl with the mouse, and Luan Yachai think that Dan is up to something with Lily every evening, but he just beats them for saying stupid things. Lily and Yachai go to the kitchen. Alu shows the bottom a sample of the monster that was in Keddy's stomach. She believes that the monster will continue to multiply until it destroys the entire continent, is sure that the anti-wine is free. However, even the high-ranking church officials do not know about this. Ilu realizes that the one who knows how to stop the monsters is the real mastermind. Later that evening, everyone gathers to discuss their plan since they still have many weak points. She approaches Zero and says that she can take as much magic from him as she needs. He claims that since she is responsible for establishing peace between the witches and ordinary people in the south, she must do everything possible. Zero accepts him words and takes his hand, saying that he can give her as much magic as he wants. Step charges her with his magic, and Zero is amazed because this is much more than she expected. She lets go of his hand before he overload her, and even after he fully charged her, SP feels that his magic has decreased by only a small percentage. Zero says that she is proud of his limitless magical power and grants him the title of Wizard of the Abyss. His friends congratulate him on this, but Zero says that if any of them make a mistake in this, well, they will all be kicked out. Meanwhile, Yu goes to scout the enemy forces and discovers that they are stronger than initially thought. They are not only well equipped, but also with them beast people and even a demon-possessed monster. She thinks that now the battle will be even more interesting. Soon the army arrives in the forest near the village. Suddenly, they are attacked by huge wild rats. Obeying Lily, and they decide to change the route, but the path they chose was full of traps, and as soon as one of them worked, the sharp threads cut the arms and legs of all the soldiers in the area. Everyone screamed in pain, and then green rain poured from the sky, which immediately healed the wounded. Their arms and legs grew back, and then they read a message in the trees that said that they just wanted to prank them in another place. The knight steps on traps that set him on fire, but despite the fire, which lasts only a few seconds, none of them were hurt. However, they lost armor and clothing, and their commander realized that the witches were showing mercy to them. He immediately ordered his people to retreat, but the beastmen mercenaries, led by a demon-possessed bull, continued to advance. Zero receives information about what is happening on the battlefield and informs the students that everything the human troops retreated after encountering traps. The students rejoice, but Zero tells them that the beastmen and the demon mercenaries are still moving forward. Set asks if the demons are strong. The mercenaries and Zero explains that these are improved versions of the beastmen who can endlessly use certain types of magic without spells. Den and Yogi argue about who will finish off the demon. But then they receive a message at Lily's in trouble and run to save her. Lily was captured by a living demonic bull and his army. He says that they will take her to the village and eat her in front of her friends to intimidate them. Lily frees herself from the net and sees how the priest deals with the mercenary monsters. The demon bull grabs her but then rushes at him with a flaming sword and cuts off his hand. Lily hides behind Den and the demon bull notices that despite his strength the wound does not heal. Den tells him that he has the power of not only the priest but also so the wound will not heal. The demon bull tears off his remaining arm and instantly regenerates it. At that moment he appears and kills all the monster mercenaries on his way and sheds blood everywhere. But the demon bull uses his power on his dead friends and they immediately come to life. They turned into mindless zombies and the day tells Lily to hide. While they fight, Yohei attacks the demon bull and leaves the rest of the enemies to Dina and they begin the massacre. In the meantime, the rest of the monsters reach the village, but many of them fall into traps and die from hidden thorns. The tyrant laughs at them for the fact that they fell into simple traps and the mercenaries call him a traitor because he left the church. Suddenly magic arrows are flying at them. Arrows fired by the whore. The mercenary commander orders his men to kill 3 wizards, but the tyrant jumps down and begins to hit them right and left. The mercenaries run away so as not to get hit, but then he appears Zero with his students on her command. They shower the mercenaries with magic arrows and they hide behind everything that comes to hand. Horde is disappointed that the arrows did not hit the target, but Zero says that well, improvise because they are fighting with experienced warriors. 3 mercenaries rush at them, and Tyrone throws a special magic potion that releases strong vines and catches them, only to fall into the trap, and the third ends up next to a bomb on his arm and melts to fill her body with magic. Horde decides that now it's her turn and suddenly summons a fire rain from the sky that instantly hits all the mercenaries. She is proud that she has mastered the fire spell and can use it without words, hitting several targets at once. But she is afraid that she overdid it and killed someone. Kuna jumps onto the battlefield and heals the seriously wounded mercenaries, confusing those who are still on their feet. Suddenly, they hear a loud roar and Zihea, who drives the demonic bull into the village, plunging a sword into his eye. They crash into a wooden fence and Yohei tries to strangle the demonic bull, but he attacks and grabs him by the throat. Yana cuts off the demon's hand and plunges the sword into his throat, but it's useless because the demonic bull instantly recovers from all its wounds. Yu has no choice but to ask for help from Zero and she tells him to go outside the village. He says that she can't, it is necessary to go so far and he himself will cope with the demonic bull. But Zero has already begun to read a very powerful spell. Her power creates a green portal in the sky and she tells Yo to return immediately. He cuts the demonic bull in half, but while he is retreating, the bull is healed and zombies appear from under the earth and begin to cling to him. When he is completely healed, he is surrounded by a whole army of zombies who begin to bite him. Taking him a few minutes from demonic bull, only the bones remain, and he and his friends look at this in horror. Zero cancels a spell and tells his students that such spells are the reason that powerful wizards following the path of evil can be so destructive. This is where the war ends and the beastmen mercenaries also retreat. Albus and her friends watch this from afar, and they even called the 7 great bishops from the church to witness. Albus tells his friend that she found out who is the boss among them, but she needs concrete evidence before she exposes him. Suddenly a huge flock of Venus flytraps appears in the forest and everyone panics. Albus protects high-ranking guests and the wizards shoot tiny monsters with a blue flame spell. The blue flame is completely ineffective and the monsters jump out of the fire and attack everyone who gets in their way. The 7 bishops along with Albus and his girlfriend made it to a safe place on the top of the hill alone. Of them, Bishop Bemir says that they need to stay close to him because this way he can protect them from monsters. He claims that he has protection from monsters, but he didn't use it before because he thought that witches could stop the monsters. He taunts Albus by saying that she and the village, which failed and now no one needs them. But Albus objects to him and says that protection from demonic monsters can only be obtained if you know the true name of the demon who created these monsters. She asks Emir how to find out the name of the demon, and he stammers, causing distrust among all the bishops. Suddenly, A lizard monsters rush at him without paying attention to the others, and even when he shows them a protection spell, they do not retreat. And the Dmur turns into a black liquid that returns to the staff. She asks Ymir if he was scared of her little joke, and he notices that all the people who were just attacked are in perfect order because the monsters were not real. Lu tells the corrupt bishop that despite his evil deeds she will not kill him. Then she takes out the egg of the lizard monster from her staff and tells Demra to eat it. As he fed it to the Kdi, he begs her to spare him, but as soon as he opens his mouth, Lu puts the egg in his mouth and forces him to swallow, and then announces that she has now forgiven him. Soon after, rumors of war spread throughout the south. People laugh at the anti-wind on the army of 10 people. They also curse Demra for bringing him monsters to the south and put everyone in danger. Albus calls his 3 students back to the academy and presents them with diplomas for their excellent service during the war. They are too stunned by the sudden news, and they think that this is another test from the headmaster, and Albus is afraid that her students no longer trust her. Horde asks if she will help them find a job, and Albus answers that she already has excellent jobs for them. Their new job is to go to the Forbidden's library in the north and collect information about the demonic monster. After that, the trio returns to the village to pack your things.